During World War II, soldiers didn't have the luxury of high-tech parkas, heated vests, or thermal fabrics that, dominate today's winter gear. Yet they survived and often thrived in some of the harshest environments on Earth, from the frozen forests of Norway to the Siberian front. How did they manage it? The answer lies in an ingenious method so simple and effective that it still outperforms many modern solutions. The art of layered insulation and vapor control. For the next minute, let's uncover a forgotten World War II survival trick that can still keep you warm in sub-zero conditions today, without fancy gear or expensive materials. How World War II soldiers learned that moisture, not cold, was the real enemy. When the first winter campaigns hit the Eastern Front in 1941, both German and Soviet troops faced temperatures plunging to -40 degrees Celsius. Many froze not because of inadequate clothing but because of one simple oversight: sweat. When soldiers marched or worked, their bodies produced heat and moisture. That moisture got trapped in heavy coats, freezing as soon as movement stopped. The result? Damp layers that turned deadly in minutes. The solution came from an unlikely source: Arctic explorers and indigenous peoples of the North who had long known that staying dry was more important than piling on heavy layers. WWII troops began adopting a new system, the layered clothing principle, designed not to trap moisture, but to manage it. Soldiers began wearing thin, breathable undergarments that wickered sweat away from the skin, followed by loosely woven wool mid-layers that allowed moisture to escape while retaining warmth. The outer shell, often made from canvas, cotton gabardine, or even wax cloth, was wind-resistant, but not airtight. This allowed for controlled ventilation, keeping soldiers warm even when resting after heavy exertion. Most people today think warmth comes from thick fabric, but WWII experience proved otherwise. The real warmth came from air trapped between layers. Wool was prized not because it was thick, but because its fibres naturally created air pockets and retained heat even when damp. Unlike synthetic fibres, it continued to insulate when wet, a life-saving feature in snow or sleet. The U.S. Army's Arctic field uniform, developed later in the war, embodied this principle perfectly. It used 3 layers: lightweight wool underwear, a heavier wool shirt and trousers, and a windproof outer shell, known as the wind parka. The design allowed soldiers to adjust insulation levels throughout the day, removing a layer during marches and re-adding it when stationary. This prevented sweating, thereby eliminating the freezing risk. Modern hikers and soldiers still follow this rule under the name the 3-layer system. It's the backbone of every serious cold-weather outfit, and it started not in outdoor gear catalogues, but in muddy World War II trenches and frozen bivouacs. Here's how you can apply this World War II method in modern survival or outdoor conditions. You don't actually need military-grade gear to use this technique effectively today. In fact, you can replicate it using simple, affordable materials. Start with a moisture-wicking base layer, something as basic as a lightweight wool or synthetic shirt. The goal of this layer is to pull sweat off your skin. The next layer should be insulating, preferably wool, since it retains heat even when damp. This can be a sweater pullover or even a second wool shirt. The outermost layer is your shield. It should block wind and light rain, but still allow moisture to escape. Waxed canvas jackets, oilcloths, or even a treated cotton shell can do the job. If you're recreating the World War II approach exactly, you can make a waxed outer layer by melting equal parts beeswax and linseed oil, brushing it onto cotton fabric and letting it cure. This creates a natural windproof barrier similar to what British commandos used during Arctic raids. When using this setup in the field, the key is active temperature regulation. If you start feeling hot or sweaty, remove a layer before you overheat. If you stop moving, add one quickly to trap heat before it escapes. This method doesn't rely on batteries or high-tech insulation. It's purely mechanical, a system that works with your body rather than against it. Hunters, trappers, and modern bushcrafters often rediscover this method the hard way, by freezing despite wearing so-called winter-rated gear. Those who adopt the World War II-style layering system report lasting comfort even in blizzards. It's proof that the lessons of 1940s soldiers still apply in the 21st century. The often overlooked trick of ventilation. It truly saved lives in sub-zero warfare. You see, one often forgotten detail from World War II cold weather manuals is the emphasis on ventilation. The US Army Arctic Field Guide explicitly instructed soldiers to ventilate early and often. Soldiers were taught to open collars, unbutton cuffs, and even loosen gaiters during exertion. Now it might sound counterintuitive, but this practice prevented sweat build-up, the silent killer in those harsh, cold conditions. Fast forward to today, and you'll find that experienced mountaineers and survival instructors do the same. They make use of pit zips, mesh vents, and removable hoods to regulate body heat. Quite fascinating, isn't it? The science, well, it remains unchanged. Your body produces roughly 300 to 400 watts of heat while walking. Trap that heat with no escape route, and honestly, you end up soaked in sweat. Ventilate properly, and you stay dry, warm, and alive. The World War II method wasn't about brute insulation. It was about smart management of airflow. Even wool socks were layered, thin liners inside thicker outer socks, to draw moisture outward. Soldiers dried damp layers in their sleeping bags at night using body heat, a technique still recommended by Arctic explorers today. A heavy parka might feel warm when you first put it on, but let's be clear, it's a trap. Once you start moving, heat and moisture build up. The insulation becomes damp, then freezes. The layered World War II system, on the other hand, lets you adapt to changing conditions. It's modular, repairable in the field, and built on natural thermodynamics, not marketing promises. It also works better for long-term survival. Parkas are single systems. Once wet, they're useless until fully dried. But with the layered system, one damp layer can be swapped or dried while you keep others on. It's no coincidence that modern Arctic forces, from Canada's Rangers to Norway's border troops, still base their cold weather doctrine on World War II lessons. This forgotten method doesn't just keep you alive, it keeps you functional. Soldiers could fight, march and build in extreme cold without succumbing to fatigue or frostbite. That adaptability is what makes this technique timeless, and honestly invaluable for anyone who spends time outdoors in winter conditions. The best lessons from history are the ones that still work. So, the next time you face biting cold, skip the bulky parka and apply the wisdom of those who endured the Arctic fronts of the Second World War. Control moisture, layer smart, ventilate often, and let your body's natural heat do the work. This isn't nostalgia. It's proven survival engineering from men who had no second chances. If you found this breakdown of forgotten wartime ingenuity valuable, make sure to subscribe to In the Beginning for more deep dives into the practical technologies of history. Share this video with a fellow history buff or outdoor enthusiast. You might just help them discover that the best winter gear was invented over 80 years ago.